for all your effort on this. Hard to remember after a month.
I have a checklist.
Oh, yeah, good for you.
Yes. Okay. Share the screen. And welcome everyone. Um, Thanks, Vince. Uh, yeah, okay, now we got a quorum here. Almost a screen full. We need like one more person to fill my screen. So welcome everybody to the March 3rd, 2026 quarterly card meeting. So we have extra people from EGLE present on the screen. We'll get to them in a minute. So I'm Roger Rayle. I'm chair of CARD and chair of Residents for Safe Water. And I've been watching over the Gelman 1,4-dioxane contamination going on 33 years, I guess. Um, and this meeting is being recorded. It's going to be put up on YouTube later, so don't say anything you don't want out there. Um, I'll let Jack take over to, let me share the screen here so we can go through the agenda. Share screen. Now, I recommend that people be on gallery mode on their view so you can see see a bunch of people on the right side, and then there's a bar in between what's being shared so you can make a big view of the people or a big view of slide the bar to the right and have a big view of what's being shown, shared. So Jack, if you want to take over, we'll go through the agenda.
Thank you, Roger. Good morning, everybody. I'm Jack Eaton. I'm Executive Director of CARD, and I'm going to guide us through this agenda this morning. The first thing we have is the CARD minutes. Roger distributed a draft of the minutes. Some changes were made, and he distributed those changes. And are there any comments or further corrections for the minutes? Seeing no hands, I'm going to take a vote now. All those in favor of, well, do we take a motion on this?
So moved.
Yeah, there you go. How about somebody
Second.
All right. All those in favor of approving the minutes as they were last distributed, say
Aye.
aye. Raise your hand.
Support.
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. The minutes are accepted. Moving on now, the next item on the agenda is the U.S. EPA update. I didn't see any from the actual EPA, but I do see Georgia is here. So I'm going to ask her if she has any updates.
Good morning, everyone. I don't have updates that are relevant to the Gelman Plume. This week, Congress is pretty focused on the fact that the government is still partially shut down since DHS has not been funded. Quite a few of DHS's operations are considered essential functions, so things like TSA and Coast Guard are still active, which is why a partial shutdown might not be that noticeable to the average person, perhaps, but the government is shut down. And since the next year appropriations process has begun, Congress is certainly very behind on that. Of course, also very concerned about actions taken in Iran. And later this week, Congress is expected to seriously consider the war powers resolution that they've been trying to get on the docket for quite a while, considering that Congress has the sole authority to commit and start war-like actions, which has not been done yet. They're supposed to be getting briefed on what the administration has done, but those two things are the focuses of this week, and I know that neither of those are relevant to this group, but I felt that perhaps I'd use the time to say it anyway, just to provide an update from the office. Thanks.
I suppose a little war would be a little distracting from what we have going here, but again, convey our appreciation to the Congresswoman. James has his hand up. Go ahead.
Agreed with what Jack said. Is there any possible things we should be concerned about in light of the current situation that you have, or would Representative Dingell have in terms of advice moving forward for us?
Advice, did you say?
Yes.
Well, we have not gotten thorough information from EPA on the Gelman plume since the letter that EGLE sent to EPA after we had sent a letter to them. I don't know that a more thorough response has been received by EGLE to that, but it's something that the Congresswoman is extremely concerned about and is working on to try to get a response, since obviously the proposed listing is long overdue at this point. But I know that that's not really, it's not a good answer, but we're certainly working on it.
You provided your best, and that's what counts. Thank you.
Yes.
I did have a call from the EPA project manager, and we talked for over an hour. There's not much going on because they have some staffing voids and so not much has moved forward, but it was good to get the call from her, and we anticipate another call here this month. So we'll maybe get some more information as things develop. But I think there's too much turmoil in Washington right now for much of anything of substance to happen. And some of the people with all the institutional knowledge are worried. It's troubling, but somehow we'll get through this. But the problem is dioxin doesn't care. Dioxin doesn't know about anything above the surface. It's going to move, and it's going to spread out, and we as locals have to carry the ball for a while until we can get the EPA in and coordinate with EGLE and get the right kind of cleanup done over time.
All right. And Georgia, we really appreciate that you show up and you're paying attention, even when everybody else in the government is distracted. So thank you for your efforts. Oh, Rita, I'm sorry.
All right. Yeah. Quickly, Roger, do you know who you talked with? Can you tell us who you talked with at the EPA?
It was what's her name? Jennifer, I think was it. Let me just bring it up here.
This was in Chicago, Region 5.
Let's see, EPA listing website.
Okay.
Or I'm sorry, Diane Russell.
Okay, good. The community involvement coordinator. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. So seeing no other hands, I'm going to move on from the EPA. I don't see Dan here, so I'm going to just turn this over to Chris now.
Brilliant. Thanks, Jack. Good morning, everyone. So I've got a couple items that are a little bit off the agenda that I wanted to go over first, and then I'll address some of the items here. The first of those is that I'm joined here by Deanna Hutzel. Deanna, I don't see you on my screen, but I don't know if you want to wave. Deanna is our new Jackson District Supervisor. So she's here replacing Andrea. We're very glad to have a supervisor in place, and I've sort of been getting Deanna up to speed on the site, filling her in on all of the interesting twists, turns, and controversies. Deanna, I don't know if you want to say anything.
Chris,
Yeah,
if you're not seeing her unless she
There
speaks, you can
she
probably
popped up.
drag your window to be bigger.
Okay, got it. Thanks, Roger.
Go ahead, Deanna.
I just wanted to say good morning. It's nice to meet you all virtually, and I'm looking forward to being more involved in this project and working with Chris on the EGLE side.
Can you say a little bit about your background and what your role is at EGLE and how long you've been there and that?
Certainly. So I have a degree in environmental engineering from Michigan Tech. I worked in environmental consulting for a little over 20 years before I came to EGLE about 2.5 years ago, and I've been a project manager in the Jackson District for Part 201 projects, so similar to Chris, for about 2 years until I got this role. I just started in the district supervisor role at the beginning of February.
Good.
Yep. Thanks, Deanna. And I'm very confident that, we'll have a lot of fruitful work going forward with Deanna and I working together on this site. So I can say for certain that I am glad to have, somebody back in my corner. Andrea and I worked very closely together, and yeah, it was difficult when she left, but I know that Deanna's going to be more than capable. So the other thing that I wanted to mention here, I brought another individual with me. I've got Abby Varner. Abby, I don't know if you want to wave. Um, I'll let Abby introduce herself, and you guys can interrogate her in just a moment. But I wanted to say, so you may recall that EGLE, we decided to bid out our residential well sampling and surface water sampling to a contractor. The health department, it was putting a lot on them with staffing and logistics to do that residential well sampling, especially given the number of wells. We've had, up to 200 in the past. This year, we're looking to do 220 residential wells as our lower detection limit has sort of increased the number of homes where we do observe dioxane below the criteria in their wells. And so, like I said, we hired, Abby works for Hamp Matthews and Associates. Their offices are located in Bath, Michigan, so northeast of Lansing. So she's a Michigander. She's around. She's, worked on a lot of contaminated sites before. I've actually interacted with her on other sites in Washtenaw County as well. So yeah, Hamp Matthews is going to be the one that's going to be taking over that sampling. And the one thing I did want to mention while we're here is I think we've identified that there may be some pushback, some unhappiness about, it being a non-government entity that's going to be coming to do the sampling. Before it was the health department. I'm sure people were probably a little bit more comfortable with health department staff being on their property than somebody from private industry. So I guess I'm here to ask you, CARD members, especially those of you that reside in Scioto Township, to please talk to your neighbors about what's happening and encourage them to, allow Hamp Matthews to come on and sample the wells. They're going to be following all the same procedures and protocols that the health department and EGLE was following. They're good people. I've worked with a lot of their staff in the past. In the past, the health department has sort of gone on a we're going to say we're coming to do it and we're going to decline access if you don't want it. we're still operating under that model. So people are still free to decline the sampling if they don't want to be part of it. Furthermore, if Hamp Matthews gets there and the people are like, I don't want this, we will leave the property, right? We're not going to like force ourselves on anybody. But like I said, I'm hoping that those of you that reside in Scioto Township can sort of talk to your neighbors and spread the word and make sure that we can adopt this new paradigm, because it is really important that we A, collect that data, but B, we thought it was really important to sort of take that weight off of the health department and EGLE. The health department had asked for staff support from EGLE too, and we don't have a ton of staff as well, so those kind of take up a lot of time and take away from other important work that we're doing over here at EGLE. So we're hopeful that Hamp Matthews being a part of this will be really positive. It'll sort of unburden the two government agencies, but we'll still get really excellent data and be able to make those decisions without too much stress on those of us here at EGLE and the health department.
Thanks, Chris. Before going to Rita and Vince, send me the details of what the company is and the schedules as you get them. I can post this on srsw.org and we'll pass it along. Make sure the county, I'm sure, will have something on their Gelman website that would be alerting the community. I'm going to be meeting with a lot of the people who have been affected in the last few years this spring. So I'll be pointing out that it's just going to be outside consulting rather than the county people or the doing the sampling. Now, the last thing is it going to use 522 method or is it going to use the state's lab?
We're still going to be using the state labs method. We think that the method that we use is more than sensitive enough to inform any risk decisions based on the Michigan criteria. So, yeah. We're keeping with that.
It gets down to 0.2.
That's right.
Parts per billion rather than the 0.12 that 522. So there's only a couple of homes I think that are going to be missed. But anyway, go ahead. Vince first, I think, right?
Yes, thanks a lot. Are they going to have the same testing system and monitoring that the EGLE would have for
That's right.
For the sites? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. We're basically, we've already sort of transferred some of that information, like the standard operating procedures that the health department used, the sampling techniques. We've worked very closely. Yeah. So basically the only thing that's really changing is the individuals that are going to be out there doing it. Hamp Matthews is still going to be distributing the letters. EGLE and the health department will be reviewing those and making sure the language is the way we like it. Basically, like I said, the only thing that's really going to change is the actual physical boots on the ground. Still going to go to the same lab, still going to use the same procedures.
So the other thing is, it might not hurt to have a little indicator that you're working with EGLE, so that people are more. I mean, we want to get as many samples as we can get, and so we don't want to scare our people off. Maybe just a simple little tag they could put on, and it would say, working with EGLE or whatever. So thanks much.
No, that's a great idea, Vince, and we'll definitely take that into consideration. And one of the things that we already considered is, because Hamp Matthews is going to be distributing the letters, we're going to put EGLE, in that letter, like our logo will be in there so that it's absolutely clear that it is associated with EGLE and potentially the health department's logo as well, so that it does give those individuals that comfort. Yeah. Rita.
My comment was actually similar to Vince's last comment. It's just, in this day and age of difficulties with people entering your home, make it on the badge or something that says the word EGLE, or maybe even 1,4-dioxane, sampling for EGLE. And also, I just wanted to ask, I I think I may have read that the lab director, is retiring or has retired.
I don't know about
Oh,
that,
okay.
Rita. I apologize.
Well, I could be wrong.
It's possible. What I am pretty confident of is that the people that work in the laboratory that have been doing this analysis remain unchanged.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I said, the boots on the ground, the people that will physically be coming to sample those houses will be different,
Yeah.
but just
Yeah.
about everything else is going to remain exactly the
Yeah.
same.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Okay, good. Well, thanks for continuing the program.
definitely. Yeah, we definitely see the importance of, collecting that data and monitoring things in Scioto Township. We're hoping we don't see a bunch of changes and that, who knows, maybe things will even go down. So, Roger.
So, Abigail, tell us a little bit about your
Oh, yeah.
background, and have you been you're quite familiar with doing dioxane sampling?
Yeah, so I'll just give my quick background and then dive into the dioxane and what we do here at Hant Matthews. But just briefly. So used to be an archaeologist, have a master's in soil science, and then went back to Michigan State for environmental engineering in my 30s. And I've been working here at Hant Matthews since 2011, so for 15 years. We actually do have an office in Brighton, so we do actually have staff that live in Ann Arbor and the surrounding area. We do have, I believe, one staff member who actually, I think, worked on this site, boy, a long time ago, maybe 20 years ago. It's been a while, I think, for her. So we do have familiarity with the site and the area. But Hant Matthews, we've been around since 2003. We still actually maintain quite a few staff members who've been here for 15 plus years because we enjoy working here. But we're a full service environmental consulting company. We have done quite a bit of 1,4-dioxane sampling on quite a few of our sites, including we do a lot of work for EGLE, for orphaned sites, and just sites where maybe they need some boots on the ground, and we do everything from sampling through analysis through full scale remediation. Some of our sites are, I call them eternity sites. We're never leaving. Unfortunately, that's just how it is with some chemicals. But yeah, we're quite familiar with 1,4-dioxane sampling. We've had many projects where we do have to interact with the public. And luckily, most of our engineers and scientists here are fairly sociable. So, yeah, so we do have some experience and background in this, and we've worked really closely with EGLE and multiple health departments across the state for other projects. So
I'd be interested in knowing what other communities you've done dioxane sampling for.
We've done dioxane
You don't have to
sampling.
tell me now. Maybe
Sure.
Send a list to Chris to forward to me, and I'd like to contact you because I have some contacts in the sampling world that you might be interested in talking to sometime.
Okay. Yeah. Great. Thanks.
New techniques and things.
Yeah. Thanks for having me here this morning. Appreciate it.
Welcome. Beth.
Hi. I'm just wondering
First of all, introduce yourself, Beth. I think.
Oh, sorry.
You didn't get to talk much at the other meeting.
Oh, maybe right. Maybe I just talked to you afterwards. My name is Beth Ellis. I am a Scioto resident. I have had some well testing done. I have been sort of dove into this fairly recently. I mean, I knew about it, but did more of a deep dive. And I'm wondering, why will the initial letter come from EGLE, and the results letter come from EGLE, and if not, and why is there any hesitation about doing like a co-badging? Because if Hamp Matthews is contracting with EGLE,
Mm-hmm.
it seems like I have refused people coming onto my property, surveyors mostly, if they aren't municipally badged, and DTE tells everyone not to let someone on their property or
Mm-hmm.
access their home if they're not badged by DTE. So I'm wondering why that might not happen, I guess.
I'm going to be 100% honest. I've never really dealt with like having to badge our people, our contractors. But I appreciate that we're bringing it up in this forum. The letters and the results letters are going to come from Hamp Matthews, but as I said, they are going to have, the state's livery on them so that it'll be indicated that it is associated with the state and the health department. I also want to make it clear that when the people are sampling, we do not want them to physically enter people's homes for their safety and for the residents' safety. All of this sampling is going to occur via sampling from outside spigots, and it has been this way, the whole time we've done this residential sampling. In fact, my experience has been that when we do go into people's homes on like one-off cases, it usually ends up in bigger problems. So we're going to try to avoid entering people's homes at all costs. I wouldn't say we're like afraid of badging these people. It's just a part of the conversation that I guess I had not really thought would be a touch point, but we will definitely, look into how we can get these people, the right credentials so that people are not concerned. But hopefully, the letters will arrive. They will say to people, if you don't want this, please call and opt out. If they opt out, we will not come to their property. So then they will know, okay, these people will be here from this company around this time. If the people like feel uncomfortable that day, then they ask our staff or our contractors to leave, we will abide by that. We're not gonna, we don't want to be on people's property when they don't want us there. That's also not that safe for anybody involved. So yeah, like I said, we'll sort of look into that badging, and I'll see what has been done at other sites to potentially address that. So thanks. And do you have another question?
To follow up on it, I really do think you're going to get way lower participation. It doesn't matter how many people I talk to personally, but like I spent any time on Nextdoor, style residents are very suspicious. I mean, they're friendly, obviously, but for good reason. There are lots of people who approach your door and you don't want them there. You don't want to talk to them. You certainly, even if they're outside the house. I just feel like it's going to be, if it's not municipally, if it's not obvious that it's, EGLE, then I think people are going to say no.
I understand. And that's exactly why we've come to you here in this forum to sort of ask for your help, communicating with your neighbors. I really think that sort of grassroots effort, that's why, CARD is great because, you guys basically do have that connection to the residents and the neighbors that we don't have. So yeah, I do agree and understand that we may have a little bit lower take, but hopefully through the letters, the badging, and conversations that you all may have with your neighbors, I think we'll get at least what we need to assess the risk. So,
yeah,
Roger, go ahead.
This is really good update. I would suggest that we can do a lot to grease the skids for your sampling. First of all, send us what the what the letter is that's been sent before. What changes to the letter are you proposing so we can review it and maybe make suggestions ahead of time? When do these letters go out? Maybe we have time to do that before you send them out.
We do.
Then we probably should video one or two of the first ones. If so, here's what it's going to be like when they come to your property. And this is, covering some of the same points you just made. And then we can share that video with the people that are going to be sampled. And I'm going to be meeting with the neighbors in small groups
Mm-hmm.
where, in the areas that are going to be sampled. And we can, during those meetings, we can show, explain to them, this is what the sampling is going to entail. And
Mm-hmm.
this yada, yada, this goes into the database and all the details of that and get their feedback. By the way, Beth lives right about here, just
Okay.
away, just a little bit away from where the north offshoot is. So she's a really good contact for, and she'll, likely be one of the citizen representatives of a core group of sub-neighborhood people. So
Great.
appreciate her getting involved.
Likewise, I do too. And Roger, I've got what you mentioned here. We've asked Hant Matthews to sort of provide us a draft soon-ish. I think we expect to send the letters out in early May
Mhm.
and sample in early June. So I do believe that we have time to get some feedback from your group as well, and I think that's something we can accommodate. So
Yeah.
thank you, and I do appreciate you saying that you think you can help us get some adoption, because it is something that we recognize is going to be an issue. So we do appreciate your assistance broadly, the royal you of CARD, and you personally as well.
Yeah, make sure Abigail has a copy of what was sent before.
We do.
As a
She
starting
does.
point. Okay.
Yeah, that's where we're starting from. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel. Um, so yeah.
And so let's do an email group about this, that we can add in the different neighborhood representatives as we find them.
Okay. I assume that you're able to sort of organize that, Roger.
Yes, I just need the names and emails uh, and what their role is.
Thanks, Roger, for all that work. Appreciate it.
Indeed, very much. Thank you.
So in the chat window, Beth has noted that there's a new SIO newsletter, and you might want to advertise it in that as well.
Excellent.
Yeah, we have an actual SRSW page on that I haven't updated yet. That will, where we can post this as soon as we have some details, and ask of what people to get involved and things like that. So I can use some help with that from anybody that who's interested.
Brilliant.
Good update.
Does anybody have any more thoughts about that? I do want to update a couple things just about a few of the items on this agenda. There has been some development, but not a ton. It's not going to be like, oh yeah, but I don't want to move on before we're fully through with this topic.
I just quickly wanted to enter. When I said the SIO newsletter, I don't mean the new email SIO community news. I mean the or the website. I mean the actual SIO Township paper mailer. I feel like that's a pretty visible thing that I think most people read.
Good point.
Great. Well, Roger, as soon as we're finished with this today, I'll send the materials that we did distribute to Abby thus far, and then as soon as we have drafts, obviously myself, I think Jenny at the health department is also going to review those, and we'll send them over to you for some comment as well. So the video may be a little bit heavier of a lift, but let me at least think about that. I do think it's a good idea. I wonder about the logistics of it and the production of it, because I know there's like some standards that EGLE has that for like content that gets made for distribution. So I may need to check a couple boxes before we go full steam at that one. But I do like the idea. And I think that, when people see it, they may be put at ease, because they will realize these people are just going to come to a spigot. I don't have to interact with them if I don't want to. They are basically blessed by the government, as it were, to be there. So hopefully we can get those pieces across if we do come up with any sort of multimedia presentation for that. So,
yeah, okay.
brilliant. I did just want to address a couple items. I had spoken to the chief scientist on Gelman's side regarding Bullet D, a GSI plan for the western area. It sounds like we're going to be getting a report in the form of a response activity plan regarding the western area. Apparently, there were some elevated levels of dioxane near the GSI. My understanding is that Gelman was developing what's called a mixing zone, which basically allows that to vent. I can't say a ton about mixing zones. I've never actually dealt with one. But as soon as we do see that, we'll have sort of a sense of what their plan is, and that we're expecting to see at the end of the month is basically what Jim told me. Regarding bullet point F, it sounds like Gelman's side is about prepared to submit the application for the wetland permit that they will need to undertake the pilot study for the phytoremediation that we had approved last year. So things are moving on that. We had a pre-meeting with them sometime in the late fall, and apparently they're just now getting their ducks in a row. And then Water Resources Division, the people that will issue that permit, had actually given them a few comments about their proposal. Some of them were in line with things that we had mentioned as our concerns. For example, monitoring the effectiveness, making sure they're not drawing down the surface water, things like that. So hopefully we'll see some activity there in the next month or so as well. Regarding items G and H, so I don't know if you know this, but Andrea, when she departed here, she went to the permits section in Water Resources Division. So she now oversees those permits. And one of the people that she supervises, Christy Alwyn, reached out to me in late January. We met and discussed. She provided some information to the Washtenaw County Water Resources Commission, specifically regarding what we'd found in the groundwater at Slauson School as part of the geothermal characterization down there. And she was very interested, she being Christy Alwyn, was interested in hearing about the results of the Eastern Area GSI investigation, which included some flow measurements in the Allen drain and some measurements of the actual dioxane that was entering. And that work was done late summer last year. And it sounds like they're still crunching that data. They didn't have like a firm timeline on exactly when they'd be submitting that report to us. But it is in the works and the data has been collected. I will say that, Gelman's side maintains that they're still confident in the fact that water with dioxane will not vent at the outfall to the Huron River of the Allen Creek drain above that 280 GSI criterion. So we sort of wait for that with bated breath to sort of assess that claim. And like I said, as soon as I have that, I'll be sharing it with the Water Resources Division. And it sounds like they'll be using that to do some of their own planning for how they're going to address what they see as an illicit discharge into the drain.
Yeah, of course, a lot of the people are not as concerned about the 280 groundwater surface water interface, but the interim as these 280 up to 280 parts per billion enters people's basements and gets vapor intrusion at maybe 100 parts per billion. That our report that we wrote a while back is a limit that maybe should be considered, because the whole vapor intrusion of dioxane is not well studied, and that's an open issue. So better to keep it as low as possible before, admitting. I'm sure Vince wants to say something about that too.
Certainly, Vince.
Yeah, so yeah, we are very concerned about vapor intrusion. We published an article, Rita and Bob Bailey, were the workhorses on that, and adopted by uh, the journal, international journal. So I think, it's very important that we keep that in mind and keep people aware that, there's a real potential. It's a new novel exposure route that they had, the journal felt it legitimate. So I think the big changes were there. I think that's great. And but it's something we really need to keep an eye on. And there's a lot of wet basements on the west side. I know the neighborhood very well, done a lot of stuff over there, and a lot of people complaining about, with the Allen's Creek Watershed Group that we're with, we've gotten a lot of people asking us about, wet basements and just in general wet basements, but then now with 1,4-dioxane potential. So something that we really need to stay on top of and make sure that, we're not exposing homeowners. And I don't think we will, but it's something to keep an eye on. So thanks much.
You're welcome. And I agree. And, even though those are not promulgated or enforceable standards that we can necessarily, work under that, we are aware and sensitive, and, we certainly do want to monitor that. And that is one of the reasons that we, went to the state's expense and installed those wells in the Slauson School area. A brief little update about that is that it's my understanding that Gelman has done at least the preliminary stuff that's necessary to begin sampling those wells. We asked them to try to stay on a quarterly sampling frequency. So in February, I was copied on a few emails between Jim Brody and a gentleman, Jason, at the Ann Arbor Public Schools. Sounds like they had worked out like a preliminary agreement to get Gelman staff on site in February to sample those wells, and they are pursuing a sort of more comprehensive access agreement that will allow them to sample those wells long term at a quarterly frequency. So
good. And those emails are all part of the administrative record, right?
I don't think I've sent them necessarily to content manager, but I'll make a point of doing that today so that people can see that. Because
in the past we used to get monthly packets of emails like that.
Okay.
And now we have to wait till this kind of a meeting to learn about it. And the fact that the samples were done in the summer and we still don't have the results yet is kind of upsetting.
I want to say I thought I had shared both of the results of what Arch Environmental had found in July, as well as the report that EGLE GSS had provided us in October. So we do have two sort of rounds of sampling of those wells. And I apologize if I had not shared them with you. I thought I had, but I will correct that today. I can get you both
if you
of
have an email date, I could look it up and see if I have it, but I don't recall. But I don't recall some other things too.
Sure. I don't offhand, but let me go into my files when we're through with this meeting and see what I can get over to you, okay?
Thank you.
Of course. And Jack, did you have a question?
Yeah. You appropriately noted that the state hasn't set any standards for vapor intrusion in basements. So, what would it take to get that going? Would it require legislation directing the department to do that?
That's my understanding is that, the criteria that we enforce have to be promulgated by a legislative action. I wasn't at EGLE in 2016 when they changed the criteria, but my understanding is it did have to come down from the legislature. So I guess they would be the place to start. And,
Okay. That's something that we could work on with our local legislators, is to try to prompt some sort of legislative activity to get that rolling.
Okay.
Hey, can I clarify, Chris?
Certainly. Thanks, Josh.
So criteria is done from an administrative rule promulgation process. It's not initiated with the legislature.
I see.
We have statutory authority already um, create rules, and criteria as part of that. So it starts as an administrative process and it goes through the Administrative Procedures Act. It does end up in front of the legislature for final approval, however, through that process. But it starts with EGLE.
Got it. Thank you very much for clarifying that, Josh.
Yep.
Rita?
I just wanted to clarify one thing. A lot of people have used the term vapor intrusion, but the work that Bob and I did and published is really about 1,4-dioxane entering the building with the water. So it's not really entering as vapor intrusion. It's really, water intrusion to indoor air, evaporation to indoor air that we did our analysis on.
Yes. Yeah, I do understand that nuance there, Rita. And unfortunately, that I think that also makes it more challenging because that's So.
Nobody's, I know. It's a non-standard exposure pathway. I understand. But I just wanted to correct it because I kept hearing the term being used that way. Thanks.
No problem. When I use that term, I mean intruding into the body by vapor.
Oh, really? Oh, it's usually an exposure pathway when you say that, vapor intrusion.
I'm not a scientist.
I know. That's okay. We're all learning.
I'm surrounded by scientists, and here I am just throwing elbows. Go ahead.
Yeah, so just to let you know, just to remind, and we did discuss it a little bit, but this was a pretty significant publication. It was international, by invitation only, and so it's pretty significant research that's come out, and it's been supported by other scientists. So I'm glad that EGLE is considering it, and keep an eye on it and work with the community on, this is an issue that's facing Ann Arbor, maybe other communities, I'm sure, but this definitely in our neighborhood, I think, is definitely a troubling situation, and we don't want it to be intruding into homes. So thanks much.
Thank you. Okay, well, barring any further questions, I think I've said everything I have to say today. So really appreciate you allowing me this venue to sort of communicate what we've been doing. And we always like to hear from you as well. So
you know that we really appreciate that you spend the time with us and that you bring us up to date on things. Although sometimes it probably sounds like we're holding you accountable for what the legislature hasn't done, we really appreciate your efforts on our behalf. So, seeing no further hands on this section of the agenda, we're going to go to old business. All stakeholders.
Well, this is part of the leftover from my previous chair updates.
Okay.
They want to start doing an inventory of what archives, Gelman archives, each of the governmental stakeholders have. I started doing that back in early 2020 at the county, and then COVID hit, and we haven't done anything since. But it's basically seeing what documentation, data sets each of the local government stakeholders, and if there's some other stakeholders involved, to do an inventory of that and see if, to make sure we have a complete, with the goal of having a central repository of all this under the CARD auspices. So whether or not CARD keeps the official copy, but we know where the official copy of a particular document is, and the other stakeholders can link to that from their websites, so that we're all dealing with the same archive of all of the data and all the reports and all of the things relating to the government site. It's good, a big job, and we probably maybe need some student interns to help with some of the gut work on that, but and citizen volunteers as well, um, so that we have the complete set of everything. I mean, we still haven't completely defined this problem. So how are we going to solve the problem if we haven't completely defined it yet? And part of that complete defining of it is having a central, available, complete archive that we can rely on. So that's just on there, and it's going to stay on there until we, as we work on it. So I'm looking for uh, people on the screen who could help with this, and which stakeholders want to start doing it with the assistance of CARD volunteers to get this done and plan out how it's going to come together. And this would be something to be very useful for the EPA when they come in and take over, so they can kind of hit the ground running and not have to bring in outside consultants to do all this stuff. Some of the stuff that they've done with the outside consultants to the preliminary analysis and the source investigation have done some of this review. And so that's two sets of data of reports and things that we need to integrate as well and match up to make sure we have a complete set of everything regarding this site. And EGLE, of course, has the bulk of it. So EGLE's, they got a whole floor of documents. And I don't know how much that's been digitized, but that's another issue. So I just keep that on the agenda so that we can begin to work on it here in the coming months.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to Washtenaw County, I want to note that Yusuf Rabi called me a couple of months ago and explained that he would not be seeking appointment as the County Board of Commissioners liaison to CARD because he and his wife have a new baby, and he is running for a different office that's going to take a lot of his time. I don't yet know who they appointed to be that liaison, and I'll look into that before the next meeting. So are there any updates from the Water Resources Commission? Chris, did you want to say something? Okay.
I'm here for the health department, so.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, and I don't have any updates other than to say that we are still waiting on the Michigan Court of Appeals to schedule something for our ongoing complaint with Gelman. So I think the last time there were any updates was in 2024, and I just verified with our attorneys that that is still the case, and we are just on standby.
We understand when you turn things over to lawyers, it kind of slows everything down.
Yeah.
And that's a lawyer just said that too. So
yes, it's lawyer time. But go ahead, Rita.
You just, sorry.
You muted yourself again.
You're muted.
Still muted. Sorry.
Yeah.
There you are.
Trigger figure. Just remind us about the court case. Just give the briefest. The briefest. What's the complaint?
Kristen, if you let me, I can explain it, I think.
Okay.
It might be best from a lawyer. There's a lot of lawyerly words.
Okay.
So after the Court of Appeals decided that the city and county and townships couldn't intervene in EGLE's action against the EPA, the court allowed any of those parties who wanted to try to become eligible as interveners to do so. Of course, the city had this, I think it was 2006 settlement with Gelman promising never to sue again, so they just dropped it right away. But the county did file really good pleadings explaining why they should continue as an intervener in that case. I believe we prevailed in the trial court, but I can't say. But whoever didn't prevail in the trial court took an appeal to the Court of Appeals, and it's awaiting judgment there. So if you get a chance to read the county's pleadings, they set out a good case as to why the county is uniquely positioned to protect our health and safety. It's really good legal work.
Yeah, thanks. I'll pass that on to the powers that be. I mean, just briefly, we are looking for the declaration of the rights that the health department can establish and enforce regulations governing contamination that are more stringent than those in place at the state level. So again, it's really about our authority, I think, and around regulations and health and safety.
All right.
And I think there's a new judge in charge now, isn't there, too? I don't think there's been a hearing on this in recent months.
I don't think there's been a hearing in well over a year.
Yeah.
So I believe that the case that's on appeal right now was heard by a different judge because Connor's retired a while back. Go ahead, Vince.
I just want to remind people that the EPA standard for drinking water is 0.35 part per billion. I think we need to try and move toward the EPA standard, and because I think we're probably going to be getting exposed at some point here. In some townships, it already is happening. So it's something, it's 0.35 100-year cancer risk. So it's a serious issue, and we need to try and stay on top of this the best we can.
Yeah.
And appreciate your efforts.
And just to remind everybody that the 7.2 that we currently have is based on Michigan's 32-year lifetime exposure at 1 in 100,000 cancer risk, where most states use 1 in a million cancer risk over a full 70-year lifetime exposure. And if those 70-year and 1 in a million were applied, we would be at 0.35 parts per billion. It's just because the legislature years ago, back in 95, decided to accept more risk for the people. And the time period that you're exposed, at that time, they didn't like what contaminant could possibly last longer than 32 years, right? Well, here we have one that's going on 60 years. So that's where the change has to be made. And that will automatically bring it down to the 2010 EPA guidelines for dioxin.
Alrighty. Seeing no further hands or interest here, I'm going to move on to Ann Arbor Township. Is there a representative from the township? Well, that was easy enough. I got a call from Kathy Knoll this morning that she would be unable to attend today, and she really had no new information to provide to us. So I'm going to turn my attention to the city. Aaron, do you have anything?
Yeah, I know we've talked about the land use comprehensive plan in this group, so an update on that. It was approved by the Planning Commission on February 18th, and so that was forwarded to City Council for consideration for March 16th by Council. My other update is that Chris presented to the Ann Arbor Sustainability Commission in January, which was great. It was very helpful, I think, for the Sustainability Commission to get that update from EGLE. As Dr. LaCruso knows, unfortunately, I had some meeting facilitation mistakes with the public comment. We don't get a ton of public comment for the Sustainability Commission. So Dr. LaCruso wasn't able to provide her full comment, so apologies again for that. But overall, I'm thankful to Chris for coming to present. And those are my updates.
Thank you much. Go ahead, James.
Yeah, thanks, Aaron, for the update. I'm glad to see that that references to the 1.4 dioxane plume are included with the land use plan. I have some other concerns with the land use plan, but they are not related to this committee in terms of natural features issues and enforcement. But that is another conversation. But I am glad to see that, share that little bit of good news, at least in terms of that observation. Thank you.
All righty. Go ahead, Vince.
Yeah, I think with this change in our zoning, I think we're going to have issues with water quality and water supply. We're already, I think, pretty close to the edge. And if we, have huge numbers of homes being put in Ann Arbor, what they're hoping for, we're gonna have issues. May have to go to Great Lakes Water Authority, which we've, look at the Adams Creek Watershed Group and others have said, including city staff, that it's not a viable option, but it may be the only option we have if we constantly demand, more water access for region. So it's something that we're going to have to look at and make sure that we don't get caught sideways. And water is something you can't do without. So beware.
All righty.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you. You can go ahead and put your hand down. I don't see any other hands. Thank you, Aaron. I'm going to move on.
I will raise my hand again.
Oh, go ahead.
One more issue, and maybe when we talk about legislative issues a little bit, certainly the issue of data centers is going to be important, as many are rising in the area. That will have a demand on the overall water grid. It's not related to our specific communities in terms of right now, but it's something else to be on the headlines for in the coming months.
All right. Thank you. Dan here.
I will say something about Dan's link here, and that's it's regarding Gelman's response to the EPA, and there's an email thread involved in this, but Gelman's position was basically that maybe some of these offshoots to the north were dioxin from septic fields. And Dan destroys that notion, because if you look at it, if it was from septic fields, it wouldn't just be in this one little string, to the north. It would be a lot of places. Plus, these are deeper wells. So how did it get down to this depth without the shallower wells around it? It seems like it would show up in the shallower wells first before it got down to the deep wells. So that's what this is about, basically, is the migration to homeowner wells. It's clearly coming from the Gelman site, and probably from the Evergreen area, where the wells they put in there were actually in the E unit, even they call them in the D2. And they show a circle on their maps where they know the D2 unit is getting down to the E unit, but they didn't really show this offshoot. In fact, they hid it by on their static water levels for the wells that were near the edge, averaging those instead of putting the individual wells, the intermediate and the deep wells, static water levels on their maps. They would put an average of those two, which hides which way the dioxin was moving on those maps. So that's what this whole thread is about here. So I won't go into any more detail on that, just to say that this is an ongoing issue. We don't really know all of the details. And of course, that's the Triangle property that's been proposed developed. It used to have a well on it, and it got shut down. And we really need a monitoring well in that little corner that could be the pathway where this goes to the north. So that's enough of that.
Go ahead, James.
Roger, what is the status of the Triangle property right now?
Uh, it's a Scioto Township parcel. It's doesn't have access to city water. That's why it was left off the prohibition zone. This proposal gets approved, it will be annexed to the city. They will have city water. And we did talk to the planner at a meeting and afterward about putting a monitoring well on that property, and they seemed agreeable to that. They do have to shift a marshy area, so there's already some, concern about where the water is going to be moving on that. But having a monitoring well at the middle of that triangle property, nested set for ongoing sampling seems to be a key to find out how the dioxin might be moving through that area.
Is the project still on schedule? Is it ready to go to planning commission, or what is the current status of it? Do you
Well, Kathy could speak more to that, but she's not here at this meeting, so we can follow that later.
And she indicated she didn't have an update on that, so I think it's just out there pending.
Yeah, they're kind of busy with other things right now, so.
No comment. Alrighty, I'm going to move on then, if that's all right. Rita, I suppose Yale isn't doing much of anything new since the last meeting.
You're wrong.
Oh.
Shocking, I know. And your assumption is understandable. But I was very surprised to get an email from them yesterday. And because I have sent several emails, I have been trying to sort of check in. Hey, I see I'm still on your external advisory board. What are we doing? So what is happening is that they are submitting for a renewal of their center. They are still in business. I don't know how much they're funded. I don't know any details because we haven't met, and they haven't answered emails, but they sent me an email saying we're going in. There is a competition for enough money, at least right now in the budget for centers. And they're going to go in, they're shifting their focus away from New York, from Long Island water. And they're going to work with, unfortunately, North Carolina, not Michigan, but they're going to work with Cape Fear River Basin, which is quite frankly a very well-established 1,4-dioxane and well-studied 1,4-dioxane exposure community. And their exposures in drinking water, they're pretty high. They have last I read, they had a municipal water supply where the 1,4-dioxane could, not Wilmington's, but a smaller town where it could be as high as 50 and 80 parts per billion.
Right.
So yeah, so anyway, they're going to do that. They're shifting their focus to be 1,4-dioxane and arsenic in drinking water, which actually is not such a bad thing in terms of us either, because arsenic, we do have an arsenic issue with the groundwater in Washtenaw County. And then they asked me some other questions that I don't think people here would be so interested in. But I think the bottom line is that yes, they're still alive. And they are not going away quietly. They're going to try to get renewed. So I'll do whatever I can to help.
Well, that's good news. Just coincidentally, I reviewed a video when we had a Zoom meeting with them as they were getting involved with the CARD group back in 2023 or something like that.
Yeah.
Where I tried to give them an update of what's going on, introduction to what's going on with the Gelman site here. And one of the couple of things that were discussed was that they are coming up with a more precise method of detecting dioxin.
Yeah.
It's not promulgated through EPA yet, but you detect down to lower levels.
Yeah, and they also have I'm sorry to interrupt, Roger, go ahead.
Well, that's
Continue.
one thing. And the other thing was that, well, go ahead and say what you're going to say. I'll remember what
Oh,
the.
I was just going to say they have an engineer who actually presented to the CARD group on his methodology. He has at the time that I last talked to him about it, it was the best technique for point of use, removal of 1,4 destruction of 1,4-dioxane using that electrolysis. I never know how to pronounce that. Electrolysis. And the main problem with that was that the electrodes had very short lives because they would get all this, the crud would collect on the electrodes. And he discovered that if you just reverse the polarity with a burst of electricity, that reverse the polarity, that it would kick off the debris, and the electrodes lasted longer. Now, last I heard, he hadn't tested it beyond 24 hours. But previous to that, the only published results went to 12, and they went to 12 because the sensitivity declined rapidly after 12. So I don't know, we'll see.
Well, that indeed was the other point, is that
Oh,
they're working on a home size
yes.
dioxane destruction system that, will remove dioxane at
And it was cheap.
home.
It
And
cost pennies a day. It didn't use a lot of
effective in,
electricity.
right, effective in scale, all that good stuff. So
Yeah.
I hope that moves forward and we
Me
can make
too.
use of it again. And then, of course, the polluter for all these homes the polluter should be paying for replacement water and for installation of these home systems once they're available.
Yeah.
So that was the thought of that. So hopefully that can get. I'm glad to hear you got a contact with him. That's good.
All right, go ahead, Vince.
Yeah, so if people don't know it, 1,4-dioxane is very, very difficult to get out of water. So, what we're doing is almost Herculean, as what the others are trying to do. So it's a major problem and it's a dangerous chemical. It's not something you want to be drinking. So we're hoping we can get forward on this.
Yeah,
Maybe
well,
after Donald is gone, I don't know.
it's difficult, but it's been done. In fact, Gelman did it in 93 to 99 at the Evergreen site with UV oxidation from 500 parts per billion down to non-detect. But that's a bigger scaled system.
Mm-hmm. Okay, then. The subcommittee on the Allen Creek MS4 violation did not meet.
But now that there's some action on that from the earlier discussion,
okay,
maybe we need to meet.
Okay.
Let's schedule something. I'll set up something with you guys after the meeting.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
James, do you have anything to say about pay?
Not really. There's not be much movement on that sort of bill happening anytime soon. It's something certainly other NGOs like the Sierra Club's going to be interested in, but we're not in the season where we have much news.
All right. You said you wanted to mention some other legislation?
Me, no.
Okay. I do. We were talking about the comprehensive land use plan for Ann Arbor, and currently the Michigan legislature is considering some bills, House Bill 5529 through 32, that would basically adopt prohibitions at a state level on what local governments could regulate with regard to land use. And it's mildly alarming because, as James was pointing out before, development has an impact on our water resources. And so I think it's worth taking a peek at. It's 5529 through 5532. But that's all I have to say at this point.
Let's keep an eye on it.
All right. And so then with that, I'm going to turn it over to the chair for his update.
Well, first of all, there's some other issues on executive board. We still need a secretary.
Yes.
I'm doing some of the secretary duties. It requires maybe half a day a month. At the meetings, it's checking people in, noting who's here. Take screenshots and we get the names from that. But as people come and go, we might miss some people if we don't. And then that gets updated to a list of attendees because part of our bylaws say that if you want to vote on a resolution from CARD, you have to be at 3 of the last 5 meetings. So that's all programmed into the spreadsheet. But it takes about half a day a month to do the secretarial duties, which includes creating the agenda, updating it from 1 month to the next, doing the minutes, which we use AI to assist with that, and then basically paying attention during the meetings and adding any notes that need to be added. So.
All right.
Looking at some people on the screen, but I don't want to. We can talk about that later. I'll go right into my chair update. So this is basically a repeat from last month. We have the state has the new interactive map with data through 2024. We're hoping that the 2025 data will be added soon, and maybe Chris, you can say something about that. But here's what the site looks like. So it has all of these sample points for homeowners, and you can see that's a huge amount of sampling that's been done. When you can click on these and you can get the results for a particular area, but they're not shape or color coded to say which ones are the hits. And maybe that's on purpose. But then you can go down and see what the dioxin levels were, and like here's this is something that has to be explained, Chris. So I go to this. I just happen to go to this one, Bay Ridge, and it says the dioxin level is 0.25. It isn't. It's non-detect.
Yeah, that's true. It is.
There should be another column that says, and this was true way back in the early data, that they would say non-detect.
Yeah.
And then they would have what the detection level was for that sample. So this, I think, isn't really the detection level either. This is probably when it was 0.5.
Yeah, so I think that what we would do, because of the way that we did the Rockworks model, they have to put a number in there.
Right.
And the number that they used is half of the reporting limit. So that gives you that 0.25, right? Because that 2023 was when we were operating under the half a part per billion is what our lab could detect.
Yeah.
I thought I'd kind of already addressed this. I'd asked our consultant that's doing the update to, indicate that they were non-detect, and then store the Rockworks information in another place. It looks like wires may have been crossed. But that said, you'd asked for an update. I have been working with the consultant that does that. They're the Manic Smith group. We've been going back and forth. So they are updating the database, and then they will update the model from that. I'm hoping that it will be done soon. I'd kind of targeted late to mid spring as our, when we roll out the new version. It sounds like they're almost there. So I'm hoping that early next week we can do some QA QC and get the database out to, rerun the models that will provide the new visuals for the website. And at that time, I will address with them basically reporting things as non-detect so that people don't get confused, because you're absolutely right about that, Roger. So thank you for bringing that to my attention.
And what I did, because I had the same problem when I
Mm-hmm.
was first doing my uh, Tableau public displays.
Mm-hmm.
I use a log scale, so I can't put zero in.
Mm-hmm.
So I was putting in a low number. And then when the level of detection got down to, 0.5, 0.2, 0.12, I just said, okay, non-detect is going to be 0.001,
Mm-hmm.
lower than any detection limit that's out there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that way we can still see it on we can still see the non-detects on the graph
Right.
at log
Mm-hmm.
scale. So that if I were recommending this to the consultant, I would say just use 0.001.
Mm-hmm.
But when I get the data, I don't have to make any changes.
Right.
And then you can have another column that says what the level of detection was,
Mm-hmm.
which will indicate that, okay, we might have missed something if we're at 1 or 0.5, but at least you have all the information you need without misrepresenting what the results were.
Right.
And
Yeah,
that's important to get done in the next update. They
I
can
agree
do that
wholeheartedly.
with just a change in the, well, now the problem is, what if there was a 0.25 detection at the 0.2
Mm-hmm.
level? Well, you have to change that one back by hand.
Right.
Otherwise, you just go through and change the 0.25s to 0.001.
Yeah. No, you've
Okay.
honestly you've stumbled onto an issue that we've been having as we change our detection level. Is how, because for a long time it was one, right? So the
Right,
0.5 as a non-detect worked for many, many years.
right.
Um,
So the
but now we're
0.5
in,
is going to be another value that you can change to 0.001, but only
yeah,
and make sure you know when there was actually a 0.5.
yeah, right. No, absolutely. Unfortunately, yeah, I guess. But I do appreciate you bringing it back up, and you're absolutely right. That is a real thing that we should deal with, and not, have numbers reported that are not necessarily not meaningful,
And this could
in
have
my
been
estimation.
avoided had we had a consult
Hmm.
with the consultant who is doing this.
Well,
As end
I
users, this is something we know about. We could have headed this off. So going forward, it'd be good
yeah.
if we had, if there's a design session or something like that,
Hmm.
maybe have some knowledgeable citizen on that review committee.
Hmm. Well, stay tuned, Roger, because once I hear more from them, um, I will get in touch with you, and
Well,
we'll see about that.
don't wait to hear from them. Tell them this came up at the meeting.
Sure. Well, they're supposed to get in touch with me like this week, so
Okay.
yeah, I don't want to bother. I bothered them last week. I don't want to
They're the
over manage it.
consultants.
Yeah, well,
They work for you.
that is true.
Remind them of that. I used to be a consultant. This is, we would volunteer to work with the end users
Hmm.
to make sure that what we're providing is what they will find useful. And if they're not doing that, I would question whether they're a good consultant.
Certainly. Well, I'm not going to comment on that, but I will say I agree. The royal you, Card, the citizens of the Ann Arbor area are the ones that we want this to communicate information to. So I do see some value in that. So just let me see where they're at, and then when we get that information, I'll reach out to you.
Um, the other thing I was going to talk about was the undisclosed sampling from 2016 and 17. Now, some of that has been disclosed. Um, the part about the marshy area, we were finding these locations that were being uh, revealed on the aerial photographs and on the uh, permits that were pulled at the time. And those locations have been revealed as part of the 2025 submittal. Um, on the Marshy feasibility study. And there's some chair notes from last year about this time about that and a lot of details. And so you can follow this link to see all that. But the study of the burn pit area, the data that we seemingly is missing at the burn pit area has not been shared. We know there's something going on because we can see these new wells. I saw it first on these aerial photographs from Google Earth, and then I actually went out there and looked at the burn pit area and actually had photos of the wells, and they actually indicated monitoring well on the, but we've never had any data on those. And it's been about 10 years. And I don't know why we haven't. I mean, is this still part of the non-disclosure? I thought that was all settled with the fourth CJ. So where's the data for this? So that's an issue that is ongoing, and hopefully there'll be a report that comes out that does what the Marshy area feasibility study does and say, okay, this is what we've been doing with all this data. But to not have it shared as soon as the data is available is troubling. So I just wanted to point that out. Do you have anything to say on that, Chris?
I don't, Roger. I'm sorry. The 2016, 2017 wetland data, as you mentioned, some of that was under confidentiality. But as you mentioned, that some of that data did become public when we got that feasibility study. I swear at the CARD meeting a year ago, I kind of addressed this with Gelman, and I don't want to say I got like a really instructive answer. They did mention that they knew about the wells, but they didn't give me any data. So, yeah, unfortunately, I just don't know what the story is there. I apologize.
And it's a big concern because I don't know if I have it on this set of slides, but the only from a very early, I think it was 1990 plume maps that Gelman produced. They showed a plume spreading from the burn pit area.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the only time we saw any data about where the soils plume was from the burn pit area. We have some data, it started out 2 million parts per billion, and then 10 years later, it was about 1 million parts per billion. But we haven't had any good full sampling and plume projections since. So these 5 wells should have indicated what's going on. Is it 500,000 parts per billion? Is it 250,000 parts per billion? It's got to be some of the highest concentrations on the site still, and we don't have that data, and that needs to be addressed. Even though it's in the soils, that dioxin doesn't want to stick to the soils. If water gets in the area, it will go with the water and not stay with the soils. And those are really high concentrations that could be affecting, maybe not immediately, but down the road, that dioxin is going to end up being somewhere. So homeowner wells with detectable levels of dioxin, we already have these data points, but we're waiting for the 2025 update to the EGLE's Rockworks data, and I guess I'm not understanding if the Rockworks data is 100% the same as the old Access database, or if we're going to end up with a joint 2 different databases, or we're going to drop some of the data from the Access database and just live with the Rockworks data. We need some clarification on that.
I agree with you there, Roger. That's one of the big conversations that we've been having with Manic Smith Group is how to go forward. Access isn't my favorite program to use. And we're sort of all aware of the long-term viability of using it. But I don't think we've made any decisions yet. But what we do right now is, Gelman sends us Excel sheets monthly. And then we obviously have to manually enter some of the other data, for example, like the residential well data. All of that goes into the Access database. The Access database is then transmitted to Rockworks. Rockworks basically downloads that, ports it over to, I believe it's like a SQL database format, and then that is what Rockworks uses to crunch the numbers. So we've had some sort of preliminary discussions about like, do we just migrate to a purely SQL database? There's also been some discussion about like, can those be updated on a shorter frequency? But unfortunately, we have not really made any decisions in that direction.
Well, that's interesting. I think this is the first time I've heard that the Rockworks is actually built from the Access database.
Mm-hmm. That's correct. Yep.
So all of these township samples that were done, either by EGLE or by SIO, are going to be in the Access database.
That is correct. And one of the things I've actually been we also have been working this year to add the 2022 sampling that was done by the townships to that database as well. So yeah, we're working, obviously, in a utopian perfect world, we'd get it all tomorrow. But we are, trying to make incremental progress to get the database as good as it can be. So.
Well, if that's the case, please send me a copy of the Access database. And while you're doing that, send me all of the DEQ formatted Excel spreadsheets for the last year. And I'm not sure if I even got all the 2024s at this point.
I think I remember sending you some of the, hello.
Yeah, I think I'm missing I think I'm certainly missing 2025s.
Okay. Yeah, I had put that together as a package for the consultant, so might be as simple as just forwarding that message to you.
And as far as updating the Access database with your own samples from the township, why not put the data in the format that Gelman provides monthly? The DEQ formatted. Fill out all those fields.
I'm sorry, say that again, Roger.
Pretend it came from Gelman, and then it gets updated to the Access database without having to do it by hand.
You're saying that for the residential well sampling?
Yes. Right.
So actually, one of the administrative tasks, after we collect the residential well data, we've asked Hamp Matthews to basically do exactly what you've suggested, collate all that data into a form that it can just be uploaded through that same process. So
exactly, yeah.
I agree. You're right, and we're already working towards that end. So
yeah, and that should be relatively simple because you're just moving fields around and
absolutely
putting missing data in somehow. All right, well, that's good to know. That makes me feel better that we're going to get that. Because that way I can start updating my Google Earth mashup, that instead of having to work from basically do by hand what your consultant's doing, I can just take the data and pop it in, and I can update it more regularly. Groundwater flow maps, I think I have something on that. Basically, this is one from, I forget what year this is. But this is a current 3D thing of Gelman's own Plume maps from 2024, extruded up. And this is a flow map from one of the consultants that shows which way the groundwater is moving. So once it gets over here, it tends to move to the east, but there's some flow to the north. And by pumping at Evergreen, they can degrade some of this northward flow and northwest flow, but not all of it. So that could be why this part here is slipping in between, and that's why we have, this kind of arrow that kind of follows the surface tributary where there's an ancestral stream bed 100, 200 feet below. So these are known flows, and if Gelman stopped purging, then of course these flows would be exacerbated towards Barton Pond. So that's something everybody needs to keep in mind. What else did I have here? Oh, the travel time predictions. This is from Larry Lemke back in the day when his students did a couple different stochastic variability studies using some modeling and existing data. And their average flow time, this was from basically the Wagner Road east to the river. These were the average travel times for the dioxane. Now, some of you are new on the screen. You've probably never seen this before. So these are average travel times using a couple different models. 124 years to 277 years, or 74 years to 351 years with an average of 168 or 150. Well, none of us are going to be around for the average. So how is the aquifer going to be restored? Well, you're going to have to pump and treat, and you're going to have to contain it, and you're going to have to pay attention for these offshoots that are making its way unexpectedly in different directions. So there's going to have to be more monitoring, more purging at the high concentrations. It's good that they're purging those high concentrations with the former IW2 monitoring well. Maybe that turned on here, but up in this area, that's going to be pulling some of the contamination, in ways that we have to pay attention to. But there's a lot of dioxane left here. We don't know how much is left. Gelman used to do every 5 or 10 years how much dioxane was left in the ground. They were wrong both times. They've removed more dioxane they said was down there. And I think they don't want to get burned again. But it would be nice to know how much dioxane is left to be taken out. And given the timelines that we have projections of, we got to be ready for a long-term project here. It's gonna outlast all of us. We have to have the entity set up to take care of this over time. So all of our existing organizations have to plan for this. We have to plan ahead how we're gonna bring new people on, new techniques, and how we're going to keep track of this. And that relates back to having a good archive of all of the information so that we don't have to reinvent the wheel every 5 or 10 years, that we can build on what we know from the past. Let's see, I think that might be the end of my talk here. Let's see. Yeah.
Yeah, Roger, I had a question.
Well, no, wait. Okay, I have to some more to do it. You want to talk about this stuff? Go ahead.
Oh no, you can go ahead.
Yeah. So I think I touched on this just briefly. We have to be CARD has to be a long-lasting intergovernmental entity. It's kind of unique that it's made it this long, growing out of the IPC and that. But being able to do what we've done, 2 steps forward, 1 step back sometimes, is, I think, kind of unique. And maybe, Chris, you can correct me if I'm wrong at the state level, but to have people on the ground, knowledgeable government entities and a resource community that we have here to help resolve and help the authorities deal with this problem. So that this is an ongoing thing that we need to do. And again, we're talking about all these different entities, and every so often we'll add a new entity in here. All these people have to work together on this, and CARD is the instrument by which that can happen. And then this relates back to the getting students involved. And this is one thing I want to talk about. The ride system has some of the information about the Gelman site. It's difficult to download it because they have similar file names, and you can't do a download if there's two file names that are the same. So I wanted to get a full download of all the Gelman documents in the ride system. There's several thousand of them. So we can match up and see what we already have, which ones we don't have, whether it's relevant and stuff like that. So that's this I'll probably touch again over and over until a lot of these things are taken care of. Finally, we need to reschedule the June 9th meeting or cancel it or arrange for alternate Zoom hosting and videoing, because I am gone that day. So I was thinking we could reschedule a week later to June 9th, which I'll be back in time, or we can cancel. But it's a quarterly meeting, so it's kind of important that how much information we got from this quarterly meeting, I'm reluctant to cancel it. So I want to hear discussion from people about whether you want to reschedule it or whether somebody else wants to somehow take over the Zoom. The Zoom is actually a private Zoom at this point, and we'd have to send out a different Zoom link in order to do it. It's got to be, you can't just do the 40-minute Zoom meeting. You have to have one that can go hours.
Roger,
and of course, we have to video it so that we can share it with everybody. So I think the simplest solution would be to reschedule to June 9th. So
Can I throw my piece in here really quick before we go too much farther? I will say the June 2nd date, I believe, is not great because that is when we are asking Hamp Matthews to begin the sampling effort. I want to be present, even though I'm not necessarily doing the work. I want to be around, make sure things are going smoothly. So the 1st and the 2nd of June, I have to imagine I will be tied up doing that. So I think it's good to not do it on the 2nd. Unfortunately, the 9th, I am departing for an international trip. So if you reschedule it to the 9th, I also will not be able to make that one. I don't know
what
your
about
thoughts.
July?
That was going to be my next thing is, if you do the quarterly in July, I think it would be a lot easier for me to attend, provided I don't get COVID and get sick for 2 weeks coming home from that trip or something. But that's what happened to me the last time I traveled internationally. So
yeah, well, for all of us, in fact, that's why I'm not there. I'm at a trip to Italy for the first time. So
very cool.
getting back that week. So it sounds like maybe July, make a quarterly meeting July 7th and do it at 10 a.m. as we always do. Anybody have any problem with that? I should look and see if I have a problem with that.
It's just hard to know the summer schedule, to be honest, for me.
It would be, I don't know. Oh, that's 2016. How did I get there? Here we go. Yeah, that's good. That would work for me. So anybody else want to weigh in on that?
What do we have right now in terms of the date? I'm sorry, I'm trying to
June
get
2nd. It's Tuesday. It's not working for DEQ and me. Rescheduled June 9th also doesn't work for the EGLE. So if we move it to July Make the July, cancel the Tuesday, June 2nd meeting and make the July 7th meeting a quarterly meeting.
So Tuesday, July 7th would be a
10 a.m. meeting.
10 a.m. meeting similar
Quarterly
to
with-
this.
And that way we'll probably have results from some of the sampling that they're doing in June then.
Tuesday, July 7th. All right. That works for me. So Roger, let me make sure that we are not, so we are having no meeting in June at all whatsoever.
Well, that's what we have to vote on still. It would be a dual thing. Cancel the June meeting, make the July 7th meeting a quarterly meeting at 10 a.m.
I'm fine with that. That's my wife's birthday that day. She would be delighted if I didn't have a meeting that day.
So you go out to dinner.
Yeah.
There you go.
It makes sense to me that if Roger and Chris can't attend in June, that we just simply cancel it.
I'm good with this change.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, well, that took care of that. That's good to know. And we did it early enough that I think we can all prepare for it better.
Very good.
And that's the end of mine.
All right.
You still have your hand up, James. Did you want to say something else?
No, I do not. Not with this.
Let me go back to the agenda. I thought we could get through this in an hour and 15 minutes. I was wrong, but because there's a lot of good updates here.
Yep. Yep.
Highlighting the importance of the quarterly meetings. So I'm glad we got this next quarterly meeting set ahead of time so we can all prepare for it. Okay, Jack.
Thanks for coming, everyone. Appreciate it.
Well,
Thank you.
Good job.
Jack, we got
Oh, we're not done
agenda.
yet. Just a second. Just ensure that there are no further comments or questions of the chair. Okay, concluding that, we're moving on to non-agenda items. Does anyone have a non-agenda item? Seeing no one on that, our next meeting is April 7th at 6 p.m. I hope to see you all.
I see Ed Bannister's on the screen.
All right, thanks everyone. Jack and Roger, I will we'll look at dates.
Okay.
All right, thanks.
Thank you all.
Thanks,
Farewell till the
everyone.
next time.
Thank you.
Stay well.
Thanks everyone.
Thanks, Dr. Svoboda. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Stop share.
So I lost power during the meeting.
That's why you lost. Okay.
Yeah, and that I've figured out how to use my phone as a modem, and that's